Hi there. Good morning, everybody. I want to welcome you all here to the Prog Monster. My name is Murph. I am the host of the show. So, this is a live stream. I haven't done this for a few weeks. I decided I would try one in the morning instead of doing one in the evening because in the evening, sometimes I get stuck doing other things. So, I thought, you know what? I'm up early. I might as well do one now. So, hence the reason why we're doing it today at this time period. So, anyways, this is Into the Progverse, in which we talk about something in the progressive rock world. Now, I know some people like to kind of lump jazz fusion in there too, and to me, there's a limit. So, if it's prog, if it starts to go to the jazz fusion part of the spectrum, I'm okay with it. But when it crosses the line, it becomes more jazz fusion than rock. I tend to stay away from it because I'm not a huge, excuse me, I'm not a huge jazz fan. I do have my moments where I don't mind it, and certain types of jazz mixed with rock I like quite a bit. Steely Dan is a prime example of that. There are other bands that do this as well, but for me, anything that's kind of pure jazz or too far over the line into jazz fusion, or basically an entire instrumental album, I'm not a huge fan of it. I will, of course, listen to it on occasion, but it's not something I prefer to listen to. It's not one of my chosen genres. So, anyways, we're here today to do a little bit of what we call progressive rock. And I've chosen the year 1970 to talk about the albums that came out in 1970. And we'll be doing, over the next 4 weeks, I believe, we'll be doing each of the first 5 years of the 1970s. Even though I am doing a series on 1973, I still wanted to do a little bit of a fine tune on progressive rock. So I've got a stack here of about 10 or 11 albums that came out, that's in my collection, that came out in that year, that are progressive rock. There are some other albums I will talk about a little bit too at the end that I think are albums that I want to have, that I think are important to your progressive progressive collection. But I think most of the ones I have here are pretty solid, and most people like these albums. Some of them I'm not as greatly enthralled with as others, but I still like them. Pretty much like them all. There's no bad albums here. They all pass. So um, these are not in any particular order. I'm not ranking today, so they're just albums that I think need to be talked about a bit. So the first one up is the last one I took off the shelf because I couldn't find it at first, and that's this one, Supertramp, their debut album. I think of this as progressive. Um, Definitely has that progressive elements to it. It's slow, it's melodic, it's almost pastoral in some ways, but it has a bit of a Genesis trespass sound to it. If that's kind of weird, right? But that definitely has that. So you can see they were a little bit influenced by Genesis, even going back to the beginning, their first album. All the lyrics here written by David Palmer, and the music all done by Ricky Davis and Roger Hodgson. So yeah, it's a pretty solid album. I like just about everything on here. This was an album I started playing, and I knew right away I was liking it, but I know it doesn't really sound anything like what you've come to know Supertramp sounded like. It's a nice picture of the three guys inside, or the four guys inside. I can't remember the drummer's name for this particular group. Oh, Robert Miller. So you got, oh, sorry, I said David Palmer. I was thinking of somebody else, obviously. It's Richard Palmer, Roger Hodgson, and Richard Davis, or Ricky Davis, as we've come to know him. So, yeah, pretty solid, um, solid album. Lots of what I would call pastoral songs for sure. Has a very pastoral nature, but you can hear the voices of Ricky Davis and Roger Hodgson on it. Still sound quite a bit like about like they do later. Sorry, tongue tied there. But you can hear that the music is quite a bit different. I thought this is a strong album for me. It's I like this quite a bit. So that's my first one, and the cover is fantastic as well. So the next album out of the list comes from Atomic Rooster. I couldn't find the other Atomic Rooster album. There's a couple released in the same year. This one is from my collection, my box set. This is Atomic Rooster, their debut album. This one features none other than Palmer, David Palmer. This time we got it right. Another Palmer. Sorry, I keep wanting to throw David Palmer in there, but he's a pitcher. This is a Carl Palmer. Now, I'm going to have a Palmer problem today. I can see that. So anyways, this is their debut album. This one is quite heavy compared to some of their other stuff. The other stuff has a lot more of a kind of progressive sound to it. This one's not bad, though. It's very, very progressive in nature, but it's a heavier album for sure than some of their other albums. There's a couple of their albums that are a bit more bluesy in nature. Sorry, it's something in my eye here. A lot more bluesy in nature. I don't care for them as much. The two albums that I tend to like by them are the first one, which is this one, and the third one. And now the other one, which I can't find, I also like quite a bit as well. So this is a box set. Comes as Sleeping for Years box set from 1970 to 74. And this particular album is the debut album featuring Carl Palmer. Yeah, really good. The next album out is not going to come as a surprise to anybody that it's on this list, and that's this one, Time and a Word from Yes. This is a kind of a lame duck cover. I like the more well-known cover quite a bit. This is, you can see this is Yes in its infancy still. More progressive than their debut album, but not nearly as progressive as they would become. The best, most progressive track on here is probably Astral Traveler. That's the one that most people know. Really solid track. Definitely the beginning of that progressive stuff to them. The bass tone on here is off the charts, though. Probably the most dominant instrument on here as far as the playing goes. There is actually a picture of Steve Howe here on the album, and he'd never played on this album. Typical music guys. I will just throw him on there. People will think he's on there and buy the album. And use that. This is probably the reason why this cover is quite a bit different than the other cover, is that they probably put this cover out after Steve Howe had joined Yes. So this is probably a much later version of it. And they wanted people to believe Steve Howe was on this, so they would sell it as well. That's my guess. But, strong album. Lots of good, lots of pretty decent stuff on here. The Prophet is pretty good. Sweet Dreams I like, although I wouldn't call it a progressive rock song at all. Then I like, that's also not really a progressive rock song, nor is Time and a Word, but Astral Traveler for sure. The Prophet, yes. Yeah, good album, strong album. But those are all good albums. This next one is a great album. This is Gentle Giant's debut album. Sorry. I'm trying to read it. It's kind of set up funny, this album, as is much of Gentle Giant's cover albums. So this one is their debut, all coming over from the three brothers coming from Simon Dupuis adding 3 additional members to the band. Gary Green, Kerry Muneer, and I believe this is Malcolm Mortimer, or is it Smith? I think it's Martin Smith, actually. I don't know for sure, but let's look and see. Yeah, it's Martin Smith. I thought for a minute there was Malcolm Mortimer, but it's actually Martin Smith on here. And so, you've got a lot of this album is quite a bit. It's a good debut album. There's a lot of strong stuff on here. Funny Ways, of course, is one of their bigger, more well-known tracks, of course. Nothing at All, another great tune. Underrated. This album is, to me, underrated in their discography. It's clearly one of their better albums. Why Not? The Queen. The Queen is the kind of God Save the Queen thing, I guess, going on at the end. But really, really quite good. Very strong. The cover's good. They liked it so much they used it on the 3rd album too. Just changed his hair color so he's not so dark. So Gentle Giant's debut album. Next up is an album that I've only just kind of started getting into, this band. And this wasn't my first album by them, but I bought it recently and I've been listening to it. Don't really know too much about these guys. This is Barclay James Harvest debut album. Kind of a kaleidoscope of color here. Picture of the band on the back of the album as well. Lots of pretty decent stuff in here. The guy's voice is different than I thought it was going to sound like. I like this. This is kind of the brass part of the band. I don't know what they were attempting to do here. So is this even the same group of guys? It looks like the same group of guys. And they've taken earlier pictures of them when their hair was shorter. They looked more proper. Like, I guess that's what they're attempting to do here. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, so we've got some decent stuff on here. It's, I have a feeling that this will become an album I like quite a bit. Cherry Red Records, it's on. So this is Barclay James Harvest's, or BJH as some people call them, their 1970 debut album. Next up, we start getting into the much stronger albums, I think. I don't know that it worked out that way, but that's just the way it happens to have worked out. This is Trespass. It's funny that this album and the Supertramp album have a lot of similarities to them, mostly because they came out the same year. So you wonder, I would have to say Genesis probably was the first sounding one like that, and then the Supertramp one came and had some of that sound mixed in, or maybe they both took the sound from a totally different source that I'm unaware of. This is a good album, very good. It's a masterpiece in my masterpiece collection. It took a long time to get there. I've had this album for a very long time. I originally only liked the knife off of it, but I started liking the more pastoral sounding stuff, Stagnation, Dusk, and Looking for Someone, all very pastoral. The White Mountain is really a very strong track. Might be even my favorite. Maybe not. At least my second favorite anyways. Visions with Angels might be the only one that I'm not as crazy about, but the rest of them, I like this album very much. Definitely a masterpiece for me anyways. And I do like the kind of this artist as well in the next couple of albums, but very strong album, despite maybe a bit weaker on the guitar and on the drums, as both Anthony Phillips and John Mayhew are decent. They're good, but they're just not to the same standard that would happen going forward. But still, to me, it's a strong album. Next up is the 3rd studio album from Jethro Tull, Some people like this, say it's one of their favorites. I never really quite warmed up to it. I like it. It's good, but none of the songs really kind of captures me in total. Maybe if I had to, I'd say Nothing to Say. I like that one maybe the best. This one comes with four bonus tracks, which includes Witch's Promise, which is a song I like quite a bit. But this album is good. There's only four of them in the band here. See a picture of them on the back. The same four that were on the previous album. They would add members after going forward, but yeah, this is a good solid Jethro Tull album. Has that beginnings of that Jethro Tull sound that they kind of started on Stand Up. The album before that, it was different. It was, and then going forward, Stand Up was a little bit more Jethro Tull sounding. This one has a lot more of that sound. Next up, we have two from this band, which I'm going to talk both of them about. I'll talk about the weaker of the two for me to begin with. Now, the artwork on here is quite good. This is King Crimson's Lizards. I found this album hard to digest. I still do. There are some good things on here happening. Indoor games. But the album really didn't do much for me. I played it in my playlist for a while. It just didn't capture anything for me. But I do like this cover, so I'm going to show you the whole thing. You got King on one side over here, over here, and then the Crimson part on the other side. But very pastoral in nature. Lots of different sounds going on here as well. That's their third album. Their second album is this one, which is quite a bit different. Very different. You wouldn't even know they were the same band, actually. This one I like a lot. So this one and their first album, In the Court of the Crimson King, have a lot of similarities in sound. I, at times, almost like this one more. Doesn't have the as well-known tracks as In the Court of the Crimson King, but I do like all of these characters that they have on the cover. There's 6 here, and then a further 6 on the back. But yeah, it's a strong album. Definitely has that In the Court of the Crimson King feel to it. And of course, it has Greg Lake doing vocals, even though he had by this time already gone to Emerson, Lake and Palmer. But he was doing some vocals here. Did he do all the vocals on this album? I think he did, actually. Yeah, I think everybody on this album pretty much were new people to the album. Both Michael Giles and McDonald left the band, as did Greg Lake here. There's a picture of him singing. And then they added 3 more people. But I think Greg did the vocals on here. I think they asked him to come back and do the vocals for the album, even though he didn't do the tour. So this is in the, this is in the wake of Poseidon, their second studio album. Speaking of Emerson, Lake and Palmer, they also had a debut, so he double dutied this year. This is a good album. Of course, has Lucky Man on it and Tank, which are 2 of their more well-known tracks. The first side, I think I kind of like the first side a little bit. I'm not a big fan of Emerson, Lake and Palmer. I like guitar, and there's a little bit too much keyboards here. It's a very keyboard-oriented album. But if I had to start moving in their direction, I think probably this would be the album I would start with, just because of Lucky Man, and I'm more familiar with it. So it's a solid album. Most people say this was the beginning of maybe the biggest of all the super progressive rock bands. This was a super group. Emerson from The Nice, Lake, of course, from Atomic Rooster, and Palmer from Atomic Rooster, Greg Lake from King Crimson. So you got 3 guys coming over from fairly well-established bands and starting their own thing. Emerson, Lake and Palmer's debut. The last album that I have that I want to show you is Atomic Rooster. This is Pink Floyd's. To me, this is kind of the beginning of that real progressive era for them. Not as much progressive as the albums going forward, but it definitely has that. You've got some Atom Heart Mother, which is the lengthy track, and then you've got the stuff on the backside, which features Fat Old Son, which is on my current David Gilmour album, the live one. This one's got some interesting titles in the Atomic Rooster, Atomic Atom Heart Mother title of the first track, Father Shout, Breast Milky, Mother 4, Funky Dunk, Mind Your Throat, Please, and Remergence. So it's kind of some strange titles. I'm not quite sure why they decided that they had to have a cow on both the back and front covers and even in the inside flap. Not quite sure why, but I like this album. It's very pastoral. It's a great album for listening to by headphones or just listening to lying back and listening to it in the dark. Just a great album. It was kind of the third one I got into. So the first two, of course, were Animals and Dark Side of the Moon. I had liked them already. This one became my de facto number 3. And wow, it's been almost since the beginning of the channel since I got this. So, I like this quite a bit. Atom Heart Mother. So those are the ones that I had in my collection. Other albums, I'm just going to go over them just a little bit. Some of the ones that I think would belong here if I was doing 4 or 5 more. I think you have to include the Mothers of Invention, even though I don't really listen to that. Not really into. I think it kind of crosses the line for me into the other realm that I don't want to go into. Van der Graaf Generator, whose music I think is fantastic. Sorry, I got to get a drink. I can hear my voice starting to break down. I like the music of Van der Graaf Generator, but the voice is just beyond my grasp. I can't handle Peter Hamill's voice on any of these albums, so I refuse to listen to it for that reason. I'm looking for some of the other albums here that I think belong here that I would like to have. You've got Jean-Luc Ponty, King Kong. Jean-Luc Ponty plays the music of Frank Zappa. This is not something I would listen to, but I think this probably is at the edge of where I'd want to go. But there's a lot of people who listen to progressive rock who really like this person a lot, like his music. And I can see why. It's just not for me. Next up is The Nicest, Five Bridges, and Soft Machines Third. So I have a couple of Soft Machines, but I don't have Third, which is, I hear, is considered their most progressive album and the one that most people recommend that I get. I just haven't seen it. That's why I haven't gotten it. The Nicest, Five Bridges. This is an album I probably would get and would like to have in my collection. I think it's an excellent album. I've heard it a couple times and definitely would like to have it involved with my collection. Next up is, let me see here. Oh, Moody Blues. You got to have a Moody Blues. A Question of Balance, their debut album. I think this is their debut. Maybe it isn't. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's like their 4th. Oh, it's their 6th. So they were around for a while before this album came out. But definitely I would like to have it. I don't think it's as progressive as some of their other stuff, but it's still pretty good. Caravan, that was the album I was looking for. I'm always looking for Caravan stuff because I like their stuff so much. It definitely would be an album. If I could do it all over again, I'd do it all over again, all over you. Yeah, these guys are just Play with words. There you go. Focus plays. Focus. Interesting title. Don't know much about them, but would be interested in learning a little bit more about them. If anybody has a suggestion on which one to go with first, that would be great. Sid Barrett has a couple of albums on here. I think the first album on the list here and the last and this new one. Yeah, he's got the Madcap Laughs. And then he also has just Sid Barrett, self-titled. Yeah, I don't see him anywhere else. Yeah, there it is, Sid Barrett, self-titled. Curved Air is a good band. I did do a video. I think they were one of the bands in one of the battles that I did. And this, I believe, was one of their albums, Air Conditioning. They are quite good, and I love to have them in my collection as well. A couple of Van der Graaf Generator albums coming out that year as well. Beggar's Opera, another really solid band. Keep going. We'll find something. I don't know much about Goliath. So anybody could tell me where to start with Goliath, I would. It doesn't even have any information on them. They are a British band, of course, as most of these are. And Walrus is the other one. They were the other two that I marked down that I would be interested in finding a little bit more out. Neither one of them has any info on them here. So those are the progressive rock albums that I'm doing for 1971, and some of the albums that I'd like to have, and some of them I think deserve to be here as well, even though I may not necessarily like them. So I hope you've enjoyed this live stream of progressive rock albums that came out in the year 1970. I will do 3 or 4 more of these in a row just to try and cover that early period of progressive rock. And I hope to see you all next week. I think I'll go back to my normal time next week. I just wanted to try this 9 in the morning one. So take care. Have yourself a good day, good evening, good afternoon. Goodbye.